Bow our heads, please, in a word of prayer. Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to host a forum for Louisiana's 2nd Congressional District and play a role in the electoral process for this community. We invoke your presence in tonight's debate, that it may prove to be helpful in informing us about those who seek to serve. We honor the decision that each candidate has made to offer themselves in public service, and we ask your blessings upon them individually and their prospective constituency collectively. We thank you for those who are participating in this process via live stream. Give us eyes to see, ears to hear, hearts to feel, and minds to discern, so that we may make the most informed decision possible with our vote. Decisions that will produce a better, more equitable, more unified community. Let us spend this time in the wisest manner possible. In the name of Jesus, who is our Christ, we pray. Amen. Good evening. I'm Fred Jeff Smith, pastor of Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church and one of the members of Prophetic Voices, a coalition of concerned clergy intent on helping to inform and empower the citizens of the 2nd Congressional District. To that end, we have organized this congressional debate. This dialogue is being viewed via live stream on Vimeo, our Shiloh Facebook page, and our Shiloh YouTube pages. Our purpose is to raise awareness of the positions held by these candidates for public office and the agenda they will pursue should they be tasked to serve. These candidates present were contacted and invited to participate in this forum, and we're grateful for their presence. We're also thankful to Terrence Turner, who heads our audio-video ministry and has produced this event, and to Tony King, who will moderate this forum. We're grateful to the staff of the Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church and the many volunteers who have stepped up and helped us in facilitating this forum. It's important to note that Prophetic Voices is not supported by or beholden to any political party or any other civic or private group, financially or in any other way. We are clergy who have come together to collectively make our voices heard on those matters that affect our community. We see it as a part of our ministry to facilitate intelligent dialogue that may be used to better inform our people of the issues that their prospective candidacy seeks to address. We represent several churches and several thousands of voters spread throughout East Baton Rouge Parish. Again, we welcome you to this debate, and we turn you over to the hands of our moderator, Mr. Tony King.
Good evening, and welcome to the Prophetic Voices District 2 Congressional Debate. I am your moderator, Tony King. We thank you for joining us. And as previously stated, Prophetic Voices is a nonprofit organization comprised of faith leaders within the community void of any political affiliation. Prophetic Voices' sole purpose is to advocate on the behalf of the community which it is located, using the principles subscribed to within the shared faith. Tonight, we have invited candidates who are vying for the congressional seat of the 2nd District of Louisiana formerly held by Senior Advisor to the President, Cedric Richmond. At this time, we will introduce our esteemed candidates. We have former two-time Olympian and businessman, Claston Bernard, educator, Mindy Mcconnell, State Senator Troy Carter, community activist and businessman Gary Chambers, and State Senator Karen Carter Peterson. Each candidate's campaign has received the rules for the debate, along with the list of topics that we will discuss this evening. Those topics are as follows: basic civics, the bridge between state and federal government, faith and governance, your personal agenda, and the fifth category is an open forum for candidates to ask one candidate. Each category was specifically chosen based on the needs of the citizens of the 2nd District. Throughout tonight's debate, there will be some follow-ups, but solely for the purpose, when necessary, for clarification for the constituents in an effort to provide them with all of the necessary information to make the best decision when exercising their right to vote as early voting begins March 6th. With that being said, we wish each of you good luck tonight as we begin tonight's debate. We will have our first period, which is opening statements, starting with Mr. Claston Bernard. Sure.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Louisiana. My name is Claston Bernard, and as you know, I'm a two-time Olympian. And I want to say this, as someone who has been able to represent this state and institution at the highest level, I would like to continue that for Louisiana. In 2005, I was volunteering at the Centroplex at the time after Hurricane Katrina. Gentleman came up, just disheveled, just in the worst condition. It was a guy who went into the cemetery in New Orleans and laid on the grave to die because he became hopeless. He thought that it was over. That sense of hopelessness is what I see when I look at my congressional district too. 4th worst congressional district in the country. One of the worst cities to live in the country is in this district. Louisiana has given me hope. They made me a two-time Olympian. They made me a national champion. This church has been instrumental in my growth as a business person and as a Christian. For me, the essence of this place, God, family, and country that develop your whole person, is what we need to change and turn this country around. That is why I'm running. I'm here to give hope. I'm here to be a champion, and I'm here to champion Louisiana because you guys have made me a champion. Thank you.
And next, educator Mindy Mcconnell.
Thank you. I appreciate Prophetic Voices having me here tonight. A few months ago, I decided to enter this race out of a growing frustration with the ineptness of our national government and my deep care for people. I'm from New Orleans. I work every day in the city of New Orleans. I'm deeply committed to equity, and I believe the best path to equity is through education, and so that is my life's work. But along that journey, and certainly in the last few years, I've just come to realize that if I don't step up as a citizen and do something about what is happening at a national level, then nobody will. The change is with me. I believe the change is within each of us. But right now, what I see in our country is unacceptable. And until we make some sweeping changes, we're not going to get to a better place where we all seek to be. So I'm here tonight to offer my ideas, a lot which differ from other candidates, among other things. And although I cannot possibly understand the struggles of everyone in this district, I'm well aware of that, but I am an ally and a partner in fighting for justice every single day. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Troy Carter.
My name is Troy Carter. I'm a member of the State Senate. I've served this community for many years with distinction, first as a member of the House of Representatives, then a member of the New Orleans City Council, now currently as a member of the Senate. Community service means something to me. I've spent my entire life fighting for the people of Louisiana. With all due respect with the earlier speaker, I don't see the gloom and doom. I see the problems, but I also see hope. I see a community that has love and has people that have been patient and waiting for leadership to step up and to help them. I want to go to Washington to provide hope for our young people, for our communities, for our churches, people that have long waited for the federal government to do something. Now we have an opportunity with the House, the Senate, and the White House. We've got to move an agenda, and we've got to move it fast to fight for the people of Louisiana. I will go to Washington and utilize the resources, the experience, the know-how, and the can-do positive energy to make things happen for Louisiana. We don't have to accept the fact that things are bad. We don't have to stay at the end and be the last of everything. We can and we will increase our numbers, and Louisiana will be better, and our children will have a future, and we will have hope. My name is Troy Carter, number 4 on the ballot. I ask that you join me as we together make the differences that are needed to rebuild Louisiana.
Thank you. Activist and businessman, Gary Chambers.
Well, thank you to Prophetic Voices for the opportunity to be here tonight. I'm Gary Chambers, the only Baton Rouge native up here tonight, and proud to be from Baton Rouge. I've been active in the community here for years now, fighting to make equity and justice a priority in our community. Louisiana ranks number 50 in the nation. We rank number 45 in health care, number 47 in education, number 50 in environmental quality, number 50 in job opportunities, number 50 in crime. And we have 2 career politicians, 30 and 20 years apiece, that have served in our legislature who have some level of responsibility for where this state is. I'm 35 and the father of a beautiful girl named Zoe, and I want to see her live out her wildest dreams right here in the state of Louisiana. I don't want her to go to Texas or Georgia, New York or California. I believe if we give young, fresh ideas like the Green New Deal, Medicare for all, a $15 an hour minimum wage, a chance that we can help the working class people of this state, not political interests and party. I hope that you'll give me your consideration for early voting, March 6th through the 13th. That's how we're going to win this thing, y'all.
Thank you. Senator Carter Peterson.
Thank you, and thank you to the Prophetic Voices for holding this debate, and certainly to Pastor. I just want to thank you for all the work that you all have been doing. You know, you don't need a title to do the work, and many of your members and faith leaders have been doing that work. My name is Karen Carter Peterson, and I'm running for Congress. And I'm running for Congress because I believe that we need someone in Washington that has a proven track record of getting things done. I'm proud of the record that I have after 21 years of serving in the House and serving in the Senate. I've been able to accomplish a lot of things that are notable. The number one thing that I would say is Medicaid expansion. It was 8 years of Bobby Jindal. Even after President Barack Obama and the Congress passed the Affordable Care Act, it still didn't get done for 442,000 people in this state. And it didn't get done because the Republicans refused to do it. That is an important fact. I fought on the front lines as the chair of the Louisiana Democratic Party to build up the Democratic Party around this state, and I am proud of the work that I led and did on behalf of the constituents, because now, only 5 years since Governor John Bell Edwards signed that bill, after Governor Jindal, 442,000 people's lives have been changed. That's life or death. I remind you of that because it's a pandemic, and we need proven leadership, people who have gotten things done. I also served as chair of the Hurricane Recovery Committee after Katrina. I fought for people to get back into their homes, into leadership that we need in Washington. It has not been failed. 21 good years of service, because that's what I learned from Big Dad and Gigi, who taught me about public service on the corner of First and Galvez at St. Monica and Stronger Hope. I'd be honored to have your vote, humbled that you would offer me your vote, and I'd be proud to serve you with integrity, competence, accessibility, and responsiveness. I'm Karen Carter Peterson, and I need your help.
Thank you. As stated earlier, we have 5 categories, and we have submitted all of them to your campaigns. The first category we will start with today is basic civics. The reason that this category was chosen was because the citizens of District 2 wanted to make sure that whoever was going to represent them had a basic knowledge of government in order to work within the government to advocate on their behalf. So with that being said, we will start with Mr. Bernard and move in order left to right.
You know,
Wait, hold on. I haven't asked the question yet.
you said basic civics. Hey, I don't need a question. I can tell where to start.
That's a DQ now. Hold on. Here we go. Question number 1. From the perspective of the 2nd District in the U.S. House of Representatives, walk us through the process of how a bill becomes a law.
Well, it starts in the House. Well, it starts with the people. You know, the people of Louisiana, they decide to send someone to Washington, D.C. to represent them, whether it's for the House, whether it's for the Senate. The House, majority votes. The Senate, majority votes. Goes to the president. If the president agrees with it, signs off on it, it becomes a law. That's a basic premise with that.
Thank you. There's a little bit more to that. That is, first it starts in committee. After discussion in committee, then it's brought to the House floor. If it passes the House floor, then, like you said, it goes to the Senate. If it passes the Senate, well, in the Senate, it goes to committee again, and then it goes to another vote within the Senate if it passes that. If it passes both the House and Senate, then both members from the House and members from the Senate come together for reconciliation. After that, once they do that, it goes through votes again. If it passes again, then it goes to the president's desk for signature. With that being said, the next question for Ms. McConnell. As he stated, he talked about committees. What is the purpose of these committees in the U.S. House of Representatives?
The purpose of committees in the U.S. House of Representatives is to review potential legislation, to discuss the merits of a particular bill, to discuss it at a level that targets that particular topic area, to make revisions, perhaps send it back to the original author of the bill, and then eventually approve it to go on to the House as a whole.
That is also to oversee agencies and programs and activities within the jurisdictions of those committees that they head. Also, here we go for the next question, basic civics. Mr. Carter, or Senator Carter, how many representatives serve in the House of Representatives?
Total of 435 in the House, 100 in Senate, for a grand total of 535.
Thank you. We didn't ask the Senate one, but we appreciate it. Mr. Chambers, what major functions is the purpose of Congress? What are the major functions of Congress?
Major functions of Congress are to write legislation and to appropriate resources for the American people, to oversee the agencies of the federal government.
That's part of it. It's also, there are 5 major functions: to make laws, declare war, regulate taxing and spending, which you mentioned, which is the power of the purse, for oversight, and also for impeachment. Thank you. Senator Carter Peterson. Wait, hold on. Excuse me. Currently, according to the last census, how many people are in the 2nd District and how many parishes does it cover?
According to the last census, I believe it's over 800,000. It's 800,000 something, I can't give you the exact, but there are 10 parishes and parts of those parishes, not the entirety of any parish other than St. James Parish.
It's roughly about 800,000, 788,000, and it's all or portions of 10 parishes. Mr. Bernard, how many votes are needed for a simple majority in the House of Representatives?
Majority. Simple. Right now it's what? 221 to what? Let me see, 221 to 214 or something like that, maybe a little bit. So whoever has a majority would be 230. Let me see. Give me a second. 435 divided by 2 minus 1. So that's, how much was this? So there's 221 majority right now. It's majority votes in the Congress. So whoever has, you know, two. I'll pass on that. Just passing that for you.
That is
It was a majority. I'm just trying to do the.
yeah, no, it's 218. Ms. McConnell, with your current profession, how does your training in your profession prepare you for service in the House of Representatives?
In my current profession, I think it's most well equips me for the House of Representatives. First of all, I also have a legal education, so that kind of legal basis is there. But the best way that equips me is that every day, including today up until 4:30 when I rushed over here, I'm on the streets working on the very issues that we will probably get into tonight. So I firsthand help the community with work through poverty. You know, I run a school for students who are at risk youth. Their families are struggling with food insecurity. Families are struggling with housing. Students are greatly struggling with the juvenile justice system. So in being a school leader navigating all these issues, I'm well equipped to understand the needs of the community.
Thank you. Mr. Carter, currently, based on the current numbers, how many representatives are Democrats, how many are Republicans, and that is with the 3 vacant seats right now?
We have a slim majority of 220 members that are Democrats. And what was the second part?
How many are Republicans?
There are only 3 independents.
Okay, that's 221 and 211. Thank you. Mr. Chambers, how many standing committees exist within the U.S. House of Representatives, and which one would you like to serve on and why?
Well, I'm not gonna try to tell you I know the number of how many committees. I wanna say it's, I'm not gonna guess, but I can tell you what committees I wanna serve on. Transportation and Infrastructure, Justice, and Ways and Means.
And why?
Oh, and why? Transportation and Infrastructure, I believe President Biden's gonna bring a massive transportation and infrastructure bill through the years that he's president. I think that Louisiana needs to be able to get as much of those resources as possible. Justice, we have got to build a more equitable system in this country, and Ways and Means is because that's where the money resides.
Okay, when you say justice, do you mean judiciary?
Judiciary.
Judiciary, okay. Senator Carter Peterson, well, he kind of named a few of them, but name at least 5 committees that exist and reside within House of Representatives.
Sure. The Appropriations Committee is a big one. Ways and Means Committee. Energy and Commerce is one that I want to serve on because I think it's important for the people in Louisiana in the 2nd Congressional District, considering the environmental challenges as well as the industry. Also, Health and Education and Judiciary.
Okay. Thank you. That is the end of our first category. Now we will move on to our second category, which is the bridge between state and federal. This was specifically chosen because at times there have been elected officials who have confused the responsibility of local government, state government, and national government. So with that being said, the next series of questions will be about state and local government versus national government and the responsibility of both. We'll start with Ms. McConnell since we started with Mr. Bernard first. When proposing legislation, how would you balance the wants of your respective national party with that of your constituency?
Thank you for the question. So while I am a registered libertarian and a proud libertarian, one thing that I think is unique about me as a candidate, and one thing I can pledge to the people, is that I am in no way bound to a party. And I think that the bipartisan system that we have is the demise of American government right now. When you're bound to a party, I think even when you might know that something is not best for your constituency, you're still going to have your party in your ear telling you that that's what they need you to do. And so I think I'm really on a mission to get the electorate to vote in people who are not really committed to one particular party. I think that is the way that we can represent more diverse views in America. So in answering your question, I'm not ever going to vote or propose legislation that benefits a party and not the people. I will always vote and write and propose legislation that directly benefits the constituency and in no way benefits solely a party.
Thank you. Same question, Senator Carter.
Repeat the question, I'm sorry.
When proposing legislation, how would you balance the wants of your respective national party versus that of your constituency?
The number one issue is taking care of the people at home. National party has national politics, and there are a lot of moving parts around what those issues are. There's nothing more important than vetting and meeting with the community, working with the community, working with the stakeholders that are on the ground, working with our local churches, working with our faith-based communities, working with the community at large, making sure that the stakeholders on the ground, because Washington can't feel the pain of Louisiana. Louisiana has to dictate the pain of Louisiana, the hopes, the wishes, the dreams of Louisiana. So the way I would do it is to work with, to have town hall meetings, to meet with constituency bases, to talk about those issues of interest, of importance, to make sure that the people are being heard, that I'm listening clearly for what's important to the people at home. And then I will take that battle to Washington and fight for the people, not take Washington's issue to Louisiana to follow Washington, just the opposite. I will take the concerns of Louisiana from the ground up, from the communities, to the churches, to the neighborhood associations, to the activists, to Prophetic Voices and others just like you, and take your concerns to Washington.
Okay. So would you ever vote in a manner that is different from the national wants as opposed to your congressional district?
Absolutely, I would. If it is not in the best interest of the people of Louisiana, absolutely I would vote against. Listen, we are not bound by, I'm a proud Democrat and I pledge to work with Democrats, but I will never sacrifice what's important to the people in Louisiana, the people that I'm first accountable to.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers, same question.
So I have a name in this community in part for challenging Democrats and Republicans. So there's nothing going to be different for that for me. I'm going to hold people accountable no matter what party you're from. But also, our campaign, when we launched this effort, we didn't put all of our policies up on our website out the gate. We went around and held community meetings all over this congressional district, and we built the people's priorities, right? Because it's not about what we think is best, it's about what the people want, right? And while the top three candidates here are myself and the two senators, we have built a policy platform that's not about bending to the waves of who's in the race and who's not in the race. Their platforms were up day one because they're their priorities. We put priorities out that were people-centered, people first, and then we put those policies out because the people want to see those policies as law in D.C. And so this is a people-powered campaign, and we will represent the people as the next Congress member.
At times, when it comes to politics, sometimes there is some give and take.
No doubt.
And you can have a particular agenda for the people here in District 2. What would happen if the national party says, we can assist you with those wants for District 2, but you must vote in this way, which is against something that District 2 may want you to vote. What would you do in that particular situation?
I'm going to always stay with the people. The National Party, you can't hold a carrot over my head and tell me that that's what the people deserve. And we've got to learn how to stop compromising on every single thing. We have to have a line of demarcation on certain issues. And listen, there are times to work with people of different parties as well as your same party. But if it goes against the wishes of the people who elect me, it's contradictory for me to support it, so I won't.
Okay, thank you. Senator Carter Peterson, same question to you. When proposing legislation, how would you balance the wants of your respective national party with that of your constituency?
Yeah, I think it's a really important question. First of all, because I've served as chair of the Louisiana Democratic Party for 8 years, and I was number 2 in the country until just 2 months ago. I served as the vice chair for civic engagement and voter protection for the Democratic National Committee. And so it's really a good question about if you're going with a strong democratic value and premise, how do you serve people that don't belong to your party and serve them well? I think that you go because whenever you send someone to Congress, you should want them to go and do it based on their judgment. You've got to be able to trust people, and they've got to have integrity. And so whatever those principles and values are, I'm not going to compromise them, notwithstanding what party it is. I can give you an example of when it happened in the Republican Party. So I don't think it's a partisan issue, even if it's just alignment with my party. The deals happen. Let's be clear to everybody who's listening. The deals happen on the Republican side and the Democratic side. Everybody knows that. You watch CNN, MSNBC, and hopefully you don't watch nothing else. But let me say, what I'm saying is that when the deals happen, you have to go back to your fundamental values and principles and how you were raised. And how I was raised is, if Medicare for all is up, I'm voting for it. If Green New Deal is up, I'm voting for it. If there's a transformation in this unjust criminal justice system, I'm voting for it. If economic justice with parity, with unequal pay for women and men, I'm going to be for it, and I don't care who's against it, because that's what the people of 2nd Congressional District need. They need a fighter who's going to fight bold and courageously, whether it's with their party or not.
So, same question to you. If those particular things are up and they say, hey, we can pass this along for you, which is something that you value.
It's happened already.
For the 2nd Congressional District.
I've been serving for 21 years.
But you have to vote another way for another thing. What would you do?
I'm telling you that this is my living example. I'm a living testimony. Yeah, we're in Shiloh. I'm a living testimony where it has happened to me in the Louisiana legislature, not far from here, in the state capitol, where people in my own party have said, if you don't vote with us, you will not get this money for your district. It's happened. And I say, I'm not going to compromise my principles. These are my values. This is where I stand. So, proven track record of standing up in a bold, courageous way in the face of opposition from within my party or outside.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Bernard, same question to you. When proposing legislation, how would you balance the wants of your respective national party and that of your constituency?
You know, first purpose of government is to serve the family. That's the purpose of the government. If it's not serving the family, I have no part about it. You know, it starts with God. It starts with the family. The government is inferior to the family. So the legislation, we're supposed to represent the people of the state of Louisiana. And if it's not going to protect the innocent, education, if it's not going to protect where we worship, I have no part in it. Because the strength of every community is God, family, and education. In this church, in any community. And that's what I'm there for. So if it's going to benefit the family in the right way, not demoralize, not destroy the family, not take the men out the household and reward different kinds of living outside of what the family is supposed to do, I have no part in that. The goal for government is to serve the family. It's not about serving parties. This is, for me, this is not about Democrat or Republican. This is about solid principles that have helped this country, that have helped blacks in this country overcome. Slaves, they clung to God and family when they had no other options. That's what got them through oppression. That's what this is about. That's why I'm running. I'm raising 2 daughters to live in this country and to understand that their faith is important, that worship is important, that family is important, that education should not be run by government bureaucrats. That's what I'm about. That's what the family is about. That's why I'm here. That's what I'll be fighting for. I'm not here to play political games and whatever it is. If it can't benefit the God, family, and education and health and welfare of my family or the people of Louisiana, count me out. I don't want to have any part with that. And that's what we have forgotten. See, politicians talk political games. They go out and they make deals. But the family's in disarray. Again, in my district, only 5.1% of families live below the poverty level. That is married. Marriage reduces poverty by 80%. We're not talking about that. We're here talking about partisanship. We're Americans. I'm an immigrant to this country, and the Constitution says if you're born and naturalized here, you're an American. Why aren't we trying to look out for American interests? American interest is a family. That's what I'm about. So I'm in Washington. That's why I'm saying it's not about doom and gloom. It's the fact, the reality that we have a guy who came from another country who became an Olympian and champion with resources here. That means we have the brain, we have everything here to be great. But most people, their goal is to step up, the next political position. It's climbing the ladder. It's not to serve the people. My number one premise of my campaign is education. Because education is the way to free your mind. It is the way to change your zip code. It's the way to change your bank account. So I'm not here to get political and get in the debate. Messed up earlier. It's a part of the game, big brain freeze. But, it happens. Math was fudging, But the reality is, I'm here for the family. You see, in this country, we talk about racial justice. 1 second. Racial justice. One
Mr.
second.
Bernard,
Racial justice. 1 second.
You've already extended your time.
Yes, 1 second. Racial justice, but there's no justice apart from the cross. None.
Thank you, Mr. Bernard. Thank you. On to our next question. Starting with Ms. McConnell again, what is your stance on lobbyists?
Hello?
Thank you. Okay. I think that lobbyists should not be allowed in American government. It's not possible to serve people at a people level, and we are supposed to be a people-run government, when we have large, big money groups called lobbyists who have the resources, the power, and the ear of legislatures to influence what happens every day in America. I mean, lobbyists have also contributed to a lot of the troubles that we're in now, and because we allow lobbyists and all of their money and all of their resources to get into the ear of the American government, they are the ones who control our freedom and our rights and our liberties. It is not the everyday person. And so I think that lobbyists should be abolished, to be honest.
Thank you. Senator Carter?
I think lobbyists are like anyone else. They have the right and the ability to come and advocate on issues. Lobbyists typically, when you think of lobbyists in its purest form, you think of someone who may be paid. But lobbyists could also be citizens who come to lobby the legislature. It's about as American as motherhood and apple pie, to petition your government, to come and talk to your legislative leaders, to talk about issues that are important to you, to educate them on the merits or the demerits of an issue. So to suggest that lobbyists shouldn't be able to talk to their legislators is like saying the community can't access the people that you've elected. Now, clearly, some of the big lobbyists have lots of money and they influence things. I think those things should be balanced. I think that we should have more citizen lobbyists, but you can't separate the two. The very nature of lobbyists comes from people coming to talk to their elected leaders about issues that are important to them. Rather it's moms against gun violence, or it's about people that are coming to talk about reproductive rights, or to talk about equal pay for women, or Medicaid or Medicare for all, or citizens who come up and talk about how they think things have gone wrong in their community. They want their legislators to weigh in. So if we take away the ability for people to communicate with their legislators, we have irreparably harmed a significant part of how we interact with the public. And you can't divide out and say we don't like those lobbyists, but we'll let these lobbyists. You know, it's America, and we have to make sure that we are all held accountable, that the public always has the opportunity to come and testify before committees, to come and talk to their legislators about bills, about budgets, about interest. So it's important. It's very much a part of the American dialogue.
So you are in favor of lobbyists, but you would recommend some level of regulation and balance between that. Is that
That
what
is
you're saying?
correct.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers?
Well, I think the senator would support lobbyists to help fund his campaign. I am a people power campaign with over 10,000 contributions from the greatest lobbyists we have, the American people. I don't think we need corporate lobbyists who fund campaigns and fund agendas that drive the national conversation. We need a true government of the people, for the people, by the people. And if corporate interests drive what happens in DC, then the people aren't served that way. And you can look at different organizations, you know, the gun lobby and how they have fought against simple restrictions to people who, for background checks for guns, right? You could talk about the lobbyists who have pushed the prison industrial complex, the people who have pushed the wars that we've been in for decades now at this point, right? We need to do away with lobbyists and have a people-centered government. And I think when representatives are there and they're funded by the people, sent there by the people, you then represent the people better. But if corporate interests are driving you, you can talk about being for the people all day. You can preach that gospel, but they tell you always, don't listen to what people say, watch the money. And if your money's coming from lobbyists and corporate interests, then when you get to DC, you owe those people something, even if it's a conversation about what their special interest is. And the working class people of America aren't at the state capitol all day. They aren't at in DC, but you know who are? The lobbyists who are getting paid to be there, because the working class people are at work trying to feed their families. And we need to figure out how do we make our government more accessible to the people. And representatives have got to spend more time in their districts talking to their constituents and then going to DC to fight for their constituents.
Just to kind of push back a little bit, not all lobbyists are, bringing something negative to the government. One thing that kind of stands out in my mind is the American Heart Association recently lobbied here in the state of Louisiana for the Healthy Kids campaign, promoting healthy eating initiatives for children, making it to where when they go out to eat, that the first choice that they have to be offered is water or milk. And that's a good lobbyist in that particular sense.
You don't have
correct?
to be a lobbyist to talk to members of Congress. And what I do agree with the senator on is, how do you decide the good from the bad?
Because, wouldn't the American Heart Association promoting healthy eating for children? That's easy to kind of
We
decipher.
don't need a lobbyist group to talk to members of Congress about heart disease. The American Heart Association doesn't have to pay a lobbyist to do that. Their executives can come and present without the corporate interests involved in that. You don't have to have a lobby firm in order to talk to the members of Congress.
But you did just say that the American people cannot be at the state capitol all day long because they are working trying to put food on their table.
That means
correct?
it's our job to get out into the community and talk to the people in our communities to understand what the priorities are. You're not going to convince me to say that we need
No,
lobbyists.
I'm not trying to. I'm just a simple pushback to try and get some more information from you for the people of the 2nd District. That's it.
I think that there is no, then you start discriminating against groups when you say, well, we can have this lobbyist group, but not that lobbyist group. Nonprofit organizations function in a nonprofit way where they can go and talk to members of Congress and present all of the things that the American Heart Association does without a lobbying firm. You can do the same. You can lobby a member of Congress without a lobbying firm.
So it's simple nomenclature at that point. It's just what they call. Because at the end of the day, it's still someone that's lobbying on their behalf. That's a lobbyist.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Senator Carter Peterson.
Thank you for the question, and let me try to help. Advocacy. So a lobbyist is, the way I would define it is just an advocate. You have paid advocates and you have unpaid advocates. And you already brought up the fact that you have the American Heart Association, you have the American Cancer Society, AARP, you have hospitals here in Louisiana, in rural hospitals. You have a lot of people who have lobbyists and they have government relations professional staff. That is really important. When you have, we already talked about all the committees, you have a massive federal government in Washington that needs to be navigated. The biggest problem, I don't disagree with Gary, on the need for the representative to have a closer tie to the people, listen to the people, and making sure that they are advocating as a member, as a congressional, or congresswoman, hopefully, because that'll be the first time there's a black congresswoman. I got to get that in there. If there is a relationship with the people, then you can be the best advocate. However, it is great to get information from all of these different interest groups. What they do, I mean, just using from the 21 years that I've been serving in the legislature, I meet with both sides. I listen on both sides, and then it gives you the ability to make an informed decision. You don't have to follow, even if they give you a check, doesn't mean that you're beholden to them. And so that is the misrepresentation, I think. Lobbyists are also Christians, often, or Muslims, or Jewish people, and go to synagogues. They also serve on boards. They are people. It's a profession. All lobbyists are not created equal, just like all police officers, all lawyers, all doctors, right? Having standards in place. I'm going to give you an example. Governor Jindal, when he came into office, he said that he was going to reform campaign finance and ethics. I served on that committee. You know what he did? He reformed it for the legislature and told us what we could do, but he didn't do it for the governor's office. And I held him accountable then. And I'll do it again. I think there does need to be a balance when it comes to campaign finance and how lobbyists are able to interact with their congresswoman, and so that that people can be held accountable and that there can be transparency, and there are other ways to do that through our laws. But there's a role for lobbyists / advocates in government, and it's not a bad one. Not all of them. I've said that I will not accept corporate PAC money, and I will stay true to that in this congressional campaign. But, you know, I'm not saying that someone who does is not going to be true to their values. I think there's balance there, and we always get in that gotcha mode, and that's not what the people need. They need to know how to advocate, and that all lobbyists are not bad people.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Bernard.
Try not to freeze up again, okay? Look, there's a time and place for everything. We have a right to redress. That's part of the Constitution, grievances, to some extent, okay? You know what? If they had lobbyists lobbying for students to be unionized, I'm 100% for that, because we need to do something about the educational system. See, so I'm all for lobbyists lobbying that all the public schools in Louisiana become private schools, because you know what's happening? It's hurting the black kids. I'm just, you know, that's who's getting hurt in the inner cities. And they're being trapped in certain places. Hey, New Orleans is doing something right with the voucher program, but they need more choices. They need more opportunities. So if someone is going to lobby for the children, for the family to have more opportunities, I'm all for that, okay? It's part of who we are. Some people, why I want to go to Congress is because I want to be a voice for the people. And there are people, they do make professions out of it. I'm not, you know, people have principles. I have principles. And the driving force behind me is God and the family. And that's what this country is built upon. That's what the black community is built upon. And they needed lobbyists at times to get certain things. So like you pointed out about the American Heart Association, but like I said, you know, we have to work to get this country back on track. We have to work with people. Sometimes we don't want to, but we have to, because it's the right thing to do. And we have to continue to make this place, this state, our focus, not D.C., honestly, because you know what? We have a problem in 2nd Congressional District. I want to hear more about that. Yes, my civics was fuzzy tonight, but we have real problems. And I want to be a part of that solution. I really don't want to be talking about Washington, D.C., because it's a swamp, okay? We need to do something about this state. Mr. Chambers pointed out, we're at the back of the pack. I don't like to be at the back of the pack. That's why I became an Olympian. I want to move Louisiana to the front of the pack. That's why I'm fighting.
Thank you, Mr. Bernard. Our next and last question in this category. As we've stated with lobbyists and accepting donations and things like that, at times some politicians are beholden to whoever financially donates to them. So this question has been posed: where does the bulk of your campaign contributions come from, in-state or out-of-state? And if the bulk of your campaign contributions are from out-of-state donors, do you feel that it conflicts with the needs of the constituents that you seek to serve, or would you feel beholden to those who contributed to you? Ms. McConnell.
I've had 2 out-of-state donors that come from loyal party members. Other than that, all of my campaign contributions have been from Louisiana citizens, individuals.
So with those that have come outside of the state, do you feel that you would be beholden to them in some regard?
No, not at all. I think that they are in support of libertarians, furthering libertarian movement, and they're just supporting me running as a member of the party.
Thank you. Senator Carter.
Very proud that 80% of our contributions have come from within the state of Louisiana. 50% of those are low-dollar donations. I'm very, very proud of the fact, again, 80% of our donations have come from within the state of Louisiana, and 50% of that is low-dollar donations. That means people at home giving $5 and $10 and $25 and $100. And in a COVID environment, people giving you, when 50% of your donations are coming from people at home, in addition to other interests, that tells you that people at home are paying attention. When a person gives you a small dollar donation, and we've had from the very large to the very small, and I'm very proud of the fact that our money has come from Louisiana. And I will tell you, for the 20% that may have come outside of the state of Louisiana, I'm beholden to the people of Louisiana. And people make contributions because they believe I'm the best person to lead, not to fight for their interest, but to go to Washington and fight for the interest of the 2nd Congressional District. And that's a position I'll always hold.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers?
I think that's a beautiful question because it gives me the opportunity to talk about the 10,000 contributions we've had in this campaign from all over this country. More contributions from for our campaign than anybody else on this platform, I'm sure of. And for me, that's a special, and it's from all over the country. We don't have the majority of our donors from Louisiana. And let me say why. We live in a very poor state. We live in a state that ranks 50 in the nation for opportunity. So the little money that people have in this state to give, because I don't have corporate lobbyists that are funding my campaign, because I don't have career politicians that are funding our campaign, working class people all over this country have seen the fight that I've had for Baton Rouge and for this state and said that's the kind of representative we need in D.C. The other thing is, if we want to grow the state of Louisiana, we've got to stop being anti-everybody else. We rank last. 50, okay? So acting like the people here don't need support from elsewhere is a slanted view. If we want Louisiana to climb and grow like Texas, people from other states are gonna have to move here. And we're gonna have to welcome other people with other ideas and other values to come help us build a stronger state. We have a state of 4 million people. Detroit was a city of 3 million people. They were married to the auto industry. When the auto industry bottomed out, so did Detroit. It became a city of 700,000. Louisiana is married to the oil and gas industry. And while the senators may not take money from oil and gas today, their careers have been padded through the years by oil and gas. And those special interests and the resources from people like that are not going to serve the people of this state. And so I think the country is paying attention to the 2nd Congressional District and saying, we want to give this young man an opportunity to serve in D.C., and I think that's a powerful thing to have so many people supporting us. And that is because of the values that I fought for in this community that people have given already.
Thank you. Senator Carter Peterson.
Yes, thank you for the question. I want to be accurate because I'm a lawyer and I want to make sure I'm accurate. So I probably will give you and all those listening a follow-up because I don't have the breakdown of the percentage like others, like Senator Carter said, for example. But I know I believe that it's a majority of Louisianians, but again, I don't have that exact breakdown. We have been getting a lot of resources and campaign contributions in from inside Louisiana and outside. But there are groups, for example, and let me tell you, Emily's List is a group that supports women, and they have members all over the country. So the money that goes into their PAC, and I've gotten contributions from their PAC. Our Revolution has endorsed me. I have contributions. They have members all over the country. And so when that check comes in as a contribution, it represents people all around this country, similar to Higher Heights, who has endorsed me. Elect Democratic Women, Congresswoman Lois Frankel has sent to help me to fund the campaign, and others around, other members that have made contributions, Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman. But at the end of the day, there are people in Louisiana that work and that work here that have also contributed to my campaign, and I'm not putting people's names out there that may not want to have their out there, but I'm happy to follow up on that. I don't think it's a bad thing, though, because I think that a latter part of the question is, you know,
Well, it's more so about who your loyalty is to. And it's
Yeah.
no different than, you know, just a follow-up on the lobbyist question.
Yeah.
Basically, for those that donate to campaigns,
Right.
sometimes may feel that you are beholden to them because, as
Yes.
I believe it was Mr. Chambers who stated, you know, see where the money comes from.
That's a good
So,
question. Yeah,
that's
because
why
a
that
lot of
question was
these,
asked.
and I'll use the PACs, for example, they send questionnaires. And I push back sometimes on some of the questionnaires, because once you give a commitment, I try to lead with integrity and keep my word. And so if I am saying that I'm going to support the Green New Deal, if I am saying I'm for Medicare for all, if I am saying I'm going to end private prisons and I'm going to vote for bills in that way, then I need to be able to be true to that, right? And so now I put it in writing and sign my name on a questionnaire, and these people are supporting me. So I do think that it's not beholden to, but it's certainly making a commitment, and it's a campaign promise. And I think it's important for people to know where you stand on issues, lay out a platform, and I don't think that's unfair. It is not tied to the money, though. It's not tied to the money. It's a statement of values and a position statement, which I think people should know before they go to the polls on March the 6th through the 13th for early vote, and on Election Day on March the 20th. They should know where the candidates stand, and it's important.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Bernard?
You know, I've been an Olympian twice, national champion, written 3 books, so people know who I am. People know my heart. I've put my heart out there, so they know what I'm about. So I'm getting support because, you know what? I've seen countries. I've been to many countries. I've been to many beautiful states. But because of what Louisiana has done for me, I am beholden to the people of Louisiana. I've had many friends and people who say, man, you still live in Louisiana? I said, this is the place that God has me in. And this is a place I want to fight for. This is a place. So I'm getting donation from different places, people who know what I'm about. They know that I care about Louisiana. I'm only beholden to God, to my family in Louisiana. That is my fight. And they know me. You see me here. I'm a fighter. That's what I'm about. And I'm about to fight for this state. And if someone is going to help, by all means, understand that I'm not going to be I'm not going to be beholden to you in any way or shape. It is to do the right thing. And, you know, there are things that need to change about the state. If we want more business opportunities, we need to start looking at some of the laws that overregulate businesses. That's the only way we can start attracting right businesses into this state. So we have to do some things differently. But outside help is not bad. That's why we have 50 states. That's, you know, we are the United States of America. So we're one country. And you know what? If one state need help, if they can chip in, we do, like what Texas is going through right now in North Louisiana. You know, people from all over the country, do they refuse to help? We can't do that, you know, but we have to have a moral compass. It has to be centered. And people need to understand, if you're giving me something, don't expect something back. If you're giving it out, because the Bible says it, you give something, your left hand should know. That's the principle of it. So if someone is giving me something, just do it because you know what I'm about. Do it because you know I'm a fighter. Do it because the things I've been exposed to and I've been able to expose my children to, I want children from Louisiana to be exposed to. That's why I'm standing here. So I'm not here to be held to anybody. Plus, you know, power? Nah.
Thank you, Mr. Bernard. Our next category is faith in government. This question is specifically designed because we are Prophetic Voices. It is a faith-based community organization. So with that being said, we will start with Senator Carter, First question for our third category, what, if any, religious beliefs do you hold or practice?
I'm a Baptist.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers?
I am probably the only ordained minister up here. I am a Christian non-denomination, and my campaign slogan is actually a scripture, Isaiah 1:17, do good, seek justice, help the widow, the orphan, the oppressed, and the poor.
Thank you. Senator Carter Peterson?
Yes, I am Roman Catholic.
Thank you. Mr. Bernard?
Christian.
Ms. McConnell?
Catholic.
Thank you. That might have been the quickest segment that we've had the whole time. Our second question, starting again with Senator Carter. How does your faith play in your sense of governance?
My faith plays in everything that I do. I am a faithful person. I am the youngest of 6 children. My mother raised 6 of us on her own when my mother and father divorced when we were very young. My mother went back to school and got an undergraduate degree and became a classroom teacher. She spent the next 35, 40 years of her life as a school teacher. She taught us the importance of prayer. She taught us the importance of faith and believing and giving back and truly recognizing the I am my brother's keeper. So although we were poor, we never knew it. We always gave back. We're always a part of the community. It's what led me to become a public servant in the first place. My faith is what has given me the strength to overcome obstacles like growing up in a neighborhood that many of my friends didn't make it out of. My faith has given me the ability to understand the power of prayer and to overcome the obstacles that many of us face every day. My faith has given me the strength to be a loving husband and a father to my 2 sons. My faith is what drives me to feed the hungry, to provide for the needy. My faith is what gives me the courage and the ability to serve our community with distinction and honor. My faith is what guides everything that I do.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers?
Well, I told you Isaiah 1:17 is my campaign slogan, so I would guess that should say that faith definitely plays a part in everything that I do. Another one of my favorite scriptures is Romans 8:28. All things work together for the good of them that are called according to his purpose. For me, it is the guiding light of everything that I do. It is the cornerstone. I remember my mother has been an intercessor all my life, and I remember going to Faith Assembly. See, the reason I don't have a problem with women in leadership is because I grew up under a woman pastor at a time when that was controversial, preaching the gospel here in Baton Rouge. And my mother would take us to church, and they'd pray over me. I was a bad kid, so I needed all the prayer I could get, okay? And my mama's still praying for me like that because sometimes she wished I'd just shut up, like most of y'all too. But nevertheless, my faith is rooted in fighting for poor people. I believe that Jesus was about justice. You didn't find Jesus with the politicians, you found Jesus with the people. And a lot of people can talk about it, but what's your walk? When they looked at Jesus and they talked about healing the sick, that's Medicare for all. When you talk about feeding the poor, 2 fish and 5 loaves with 5,000 people, he was among the people. I have been a people-centered person in every aspect of what I do. And the truth is, most of these folks here are probably more qualified by textbook definitions to be in any of these positions. But somehow God saw fit to give me the opportunity to touch so many people around this country that would be able to support us. And I believe that it is ordained for me to be in this moment, win or lose, because my presence in this race has pushed people further to the left. It has pushed people to the issues that are important to the people of this district. And that's all rooted in the faith that I was taught at 5050 Greenwell Street here in Baton Rouge.
Thank you. Senator Carter Peterson.
Yes, so as I mentioned, I'm Roman Catholic, and certainly I lead with my values, and those values are that they emanate from my faith in Catholicism, and as a Christian. Some of the two of the family models, among many, were to whom much is given, much is required, and also treat people as fundamentally the golden rule, how you would like to be treated. And so that's really what I think are guiding principles. I'll also say I try to serve with humility. That's what I was taught by the people that raised me in public service, and to keep my ego in check. Remember whose you are and whom you are, and never forget where you came from. I believe that, though, there's a prime example that just happened in the last 2 years where faith and representation often, there was a point, and it was a big one for me, where I promoted healthcare and the healthcare of women's rights. And I'm pro-choice, I'm Catholic, but I'm a pro-choice Catholic. And reproductive freedom is something that I fight hard for. There are people within my own party, no secret, that don't believe that a woman should not be able to choose to do what she wants with her own body. And that conflicts with their faith. And when you go to the legislature or you go to Washington in the Capitol, I believe it's incumbent upon us to represent the people that sent us there. And so I'll use the example of Terry McAuliffe, who was in Virginia, and Tim Kaine, who both were in Virginia, both Catholic. They both said that they were pro-life, but when it came time to vote on behalf of their constituents, they voted to give a woman the right to do what she wants to do with her own body. I think it's really important for us to not wear our faith on our sleeves and think we're holier than thou. I think you lead with your values, you establish them, you let people decide who they're voting for in their judgment, and then they let you lead. And then every couple of years, 2 years, I hear in Congress, they get to choose whether they send you back.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Bernard.
You know, for me, faith is everything. Faith is everything. The first institution ever created by God was the man and the woman in the garden. That's the first institution. There's a purpose, okay? The government is downstream, the family. The role of the government should be limited. It is not the right to define life. It's not the right to define liberty, because when it was defining liberty, it said in Dred Scott ruling that blacks were properties. See, we have to start looking at these things. In Plessy v. Ferguson, it also said separate but equal. See, the government is inferior to the family, so my faith hinges on what God first created. And he gave us a man and a woman, and out of the man and the woman, the government comes forth. And politicians don't get to decide who gets to play God or who lives. I hear a lot of people sometimes saying votes, especially in the black community, are being suppressed. Well, stop killing black babies. Stop advocating it. We gotta be real. We can't kill the next Michael Jordan or LeBron James and said, if we need more wealth, we need more opportunities. Our faith dictates that we are supposed to be providers, men. And it's not talking down to women. I have a wife and 2 daughters. I have 2 sisters. I have a mother. But we are supposed to be the strength of our community. We're supposed to be the leaders. We're supposed to stand up. I am not going to argue against my existence. I've said this over and over, and when you read my website, you will see it. The deal is this. Many men who fought against the institution of slavery were mothers. Some of them were raped. They knew the institution, the mothers knew the institution that these men or women were coming into, whether it was Harriet Tubman or Frederick Douglass. Had they decided to abort those children, to say, this is an unjust system, what would have happened today? Some of us wouldn't have been here. We can't continue to say this is a right. God defined right, life, and liberty. It is self-evident. The Declaration of Independence says, all men are created equal with unalienable rights, endowed by God.
Thank you, Mr. Bernard. Ms. McConnell.
Thank you. I'd like to start by just stating that I'm glad Mr. Chambers found a way to accept women in leadership through his faith. And then I'd like to add that I am a Catholic. My son attends Holy Cross. He's here in his Holy Cross sweatshirt. We certainly have faith in our everyday life. But as as a legislator, as a leader in government, our role is to ensure that religious freedom is protected at all costs. And so that means that as a legislator, as a congresswoman, it is my job to make sure that the person who believes in God and the person who believes in Allah and the person who's turned away from God, they're all equally represented, and that I'm fighting for their rights equally. So religion really needs to be separate from government. And when we separate religion and governance, then we truly allow religious freedom. And we saw that in the last year when the government tried to take away the right for people to assemble and celebrate their religion and pray to God. And that's unacceptable. The government should never step in and restrict religious freedom. And that is our role, to protect that freedom.
At what point did the government prevent people from celebrating or practicing their religious freedom?
Well, currently, in many states, in Louisiana, in areas of Louisiana, the restrictions have loosened a little bit, but in New Orleans, I mean, a certain amount of people cannot congregate. The Catholic Church still doesn't have Mass, but at certain phases within the COVID, you were not allowed to attend church at all. It was virtual church. You couldn't assemble to celebrate God.
Again, at what point did the government, because
that was not the federal government, albeit. That was
no,
local,
at any level of government, because a health restriction is different than preventing you from being able to practice your religious liberty. Because at the end of the day, a particular church could have adhered to the CDC guidelines or social distancing by holding church or mass outside, or could have had any number of other creative ways in order, outside of just virtual, in order for them to be able to practice their religious faith. So it wasn't anything that was prohibiting you from practicing that faith. It was only a CDC health guideline in order for people to be able to be safe and stop the spread of a very viral pathogen. So at what point, again?
So the point when the government decided to become doctors and physicians and put that right over the constitutional rights that protect religious freedom, that's the point where the government overstepped its bounds, pushed aside the constitutional right to assemble and to celebrate religion, religious freedom, and they decided to put the needs of the CDC above that, which is a fundamental right in our Constitution. And so they even restricted outside gatherings. I mean, across the board, they just made it very impractical for people to practice religion in the manner that they normally do.
I'm not understanding. Again, there were other methods that could have been, put in place by that particular church that would have still allowed for people to practice their religious faith, and nothing was preventing them from preventing their religious faith. And according to the First Amendment, it says Congress shall make no law prohibiting. There was no law. There were just guidelines. So again, no one was actually taking that away from anyone. They were just putting together, practices in order to slow the spread of a viral pathogen, which, as we know, we just made 500,000 deaths of people who pass away from that viral disease, and many more still counting. So I'm just, wanting to clarify that a little bit.
No, I completely know that, the reality of COVID is gut-wrenching, and it's real, right? Here in Louisiana, there were laws, not guidelines, that prohibited people from assembling.
Laws?
Yes.
At this time, can those in the audience please refrain from talking?
Local ordinances.
We already, so you say ordinances?
Local ordinances, yes.
So not
there
laws?
Were city ordinances, there were state mandates. I mean, it was regulated, just heavily regulated in different levels of government.
Well, for the sake of it, we'll continue on, but not laws, just ordinances and guidelines and mandates.
No guidelines.
Okay. Thank you. No.
Those in the audience, please silence your voices. We are live. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Please.
Miss Mindy, as a child growing up in church, having a woman pastor, maybe you don't know this, but that was controversial. I was a baby that my mother took me to this church, which gave me, I never had an issue with women leading because I grew up with a woman teaching me my faith, right? And when you talk about COVID, 3 people here are wearing masks, 2 aren't. So of course you don't respect the restrictions or the virus. And so when we talk about respecting humanity, you can't even get the ability to go to church if you get COVID and die. And we'll be laid here in a box of pine wood with people saying goodbye to us. And I know too many people who have died as a result of this virus. And so what the people of this district need from their leaders are leaders who respect guidelines in order to protect humanity, because what good is it to protect the faith that you can't live to worship?
I received a COVID test this week. Did
Thank you.
I got my mask
Thank
on.
you. Thank you. At this time, we will move on to the 4th category, which is your personal agenda. These questions are questions about your personal agenda, your records, and what you state that you will do once or if elected into the House of Representatives. We started the last category with Mr. Carter. This next category, we will start with Mr. Chambers. Mr. Chambers, you stated your service as an ordained minister throughout your community activism. As you stated, having preached around town and, like you said, 50/50 Greenville Street. You have also stated your progressive views on abortion as well. As a faith leader, how do you reconcile that social stance versus the religious belief of thou shalt not murder?
That is a beautiful question, brother. I believe that we have twisted our faith. Truthfully, we choose to believe whatever we believe. That is a personal decision. And what I was taught in my faith by Pastor Edith Howard was that the Holy Spirit doesn't govern over anybody else. You make your own decisions. The Holy Spirit is a gentleman. So is the Lord, okay? And so if you chose your faith, then you choose for you what you want to believe. The government, however, is not a religious organization. It is the government that serves all of the people, the Christian, the Muslim, the Jew, the non-believer, the atheist, the agnostic, whatever your belief, the Hindu, the Buddhist. And what happens, okay, for those who are upset about the browning of America, what happens when Christianity is not the majority religion in this country? And then another religion gets to decide what the laws are. Will we be satisfied with what happens in Muslim countries being the governing policies of this nation? No. And so when it comes to a woman's right to choose, I'm a man. I'm not a woman. At no point should a man ever tell a woman what to do with her body. It is hers. For me as a man, I don't know what it feels like to be pregnant. The same way some white folks believe that they understand what it feels like to be oppressed because they had to wear a mask, okay? They will never understand what real oppression is. The same way I will never understand what it feels like to be a woman faced with a decision. And if we really want to deal with the abortion issue, let's deal with poverty. Because the reason that the majority of women choose to have an abortion in this country is not because they don't want the child. It's often because they can't afford to take care of the child. And that's not whether a man is in the house or it's a 2-parent household. It's about what are we going to do to make sure that people in this country can survive and live. We have too much government that wants to tell people what they can and cannot do, and that's not my job. I chose my faith, and other people can choose for themselves what they want to believe. And I think that we have a warped perspective about what faith and religion is. And I want the freedom to live out my choices and my life through the rest of my life. And I think that every woman in this country should be able to make those decisions for herself. And let me be clear about this. We have had a majority white male government for the entirety of this country, and it has been restrictive and discriminative against women and black folks and brown folks and poor folks from its inception. And until we get more black folks, more brown folks, more women elected, we're not going to change those things.
Thank you. Senator Carter Peterson, you just filed a bill recently to gradually increase the state's minimum wage to $15 by 2026. How do you explain the timing of this bill to those who may believe that this is opportunistic and politically calculated?
That's a really good question. The fact of the matter is I filed it before, so it's not novel. The problem is the members of the Louisiana legislature have not agreed to pass it. And this has been a long time battle with members of the legislature, but I've filed these bills before, not only for increasing the minimum wage to $15, but also for pay equity and an equal pay commission. And so, change doesn't happen overnight, right? And you just keep going. And one of the reasons I want to go to Congress is because I think there's going to be an opportunity, and hopefully this happens before the election is over, that the minimum wage gets increased, because I support it being a part of the $1.9 trillion COVID package. Because if it's a part of that, we can deal with poverty, as Mr. Chambers just noted. We live in a very impoverished state. And if we don't give people a living wage, and let me be real clear, that's the baseline, $15 an hour. It needs to be higher than that. So I'm trying to get Louisiana to be reasonable and convince colleagues to be reasonable. We have not been able to do it. I will absolutely tell you that it's something that I'm very disappointed by, but it's not because I haven't tried. It's not because I haven't fought. I've been fighting for a very long time. The same way I talked about Medicaid expansion, and it didn't happen overnight. I filed bills for a state exchange. I filed bills to force the legislature to do it. And then I started working. I became chair of the party. I worked around this state to organize Democrats. And then he got elected. Once Governor John Bell Edwards got elected, the first thing he did, that was the premise of his election in 2015. And so I just think that if people want to suggest that, go look at the record. Look how many times I've tried to do this, among other things that are progressive causes, to try to move Louisiana out of 50th on all the good lists and first on all the bad lists. Change doesn't happen overnight. And so I'm proud of filing the bill, and I hope we get more support this year than we got last year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bernard, in a recent article in The Advocate on February 19th, you declared that your faith and family are the binding roots of this nation, and that you will, quote, defend them against socialism and other forms of division. Later in the article, you stated that one of your plans is to use business tax credits to, quote, funnel money to after-school programs, end quote. This would mean that government would be sharing funds for social programs, which is the exact definition of socialism. How do you explain this contradiction?
There's no contradiction there, actually. This is not a socialist program. Tesla, for instance, if they have a $10 million tax bill, they want to reduce it, and they want to contribute it to a church here. They have computer program, after-school programs. That has nothing to do with the government. Nothing in my plan is from the government. So I'm not sure why that is there, to say that's the definition of socialism. Now, after-school programs, let's talk about that, okay? Kids between 6 and 17 years old would have an opportunity to learn whatever they want to learn, okay? Singing, dancing, math, pipe fitting, plumbing, electrical work, okay? My job is to help people to become better and more skilled before they become a senior in high school. So their only option is not to go to college, get scammed, end up with useless college debt, and also useless college degrees. At 17 years old, they can go work and earn a living. 18-year-old, they can go work and earn a living. But nothing in my plan is asking the government for anything. I'm trying to partner with private companies. It has been done before in this country's history, where private companies finance after-school program, grant programs to churches, to different organizations in society. That's what we have to get back. Like I said, education is the number one or one of the best ways to change your position, to get out of poverty. So I'm not asking the government to do anything. The government has destroyed Black America. They continue to have Black America begging like dogs. And guess what? This state, it has all the resources. Ascension Parish is rich. East Baton Rouge Parish is rich. The schools are well financed. New Orleans, the schools, they're well funded. The problem is there are no choices. If I don't like Walmart, I can go to Rouse's. If I don't like Rouse's, I can go to Winn-Dixie. We don't have that in the school system. We need choices. So if you're trying to infer, or if they were trying to infer, which I don't think they were trying to, because I spoke to the gentleman, it was my after-school program is to partner with private companies, not the government. The government has been the biggest source, especially in education. It has been the biggest anti-Black system in this state towards Black progress.
Mr. Bernard, but I understand that you're saying that it wouldn't have anything to do with the government, but you did say tax incentives and tax benefits and tax credits. That does have to do with the government. So
no, that if my money, if it's my money, okay, I work hard for my money, not the government. If I decide to take my money and give it to a program here, how is that socialism? That's coming from me. My hard work,
But you said,
not bureaucrats.
quote, tax credits. That's
Tax
is
credit,
government.
dollar for dollar. So if you have a $10 million tax bill, and you say, okay, $5 million, you get the tax credit for that. That's not, you're not taking anything from society.
But it's the government that is
No,
regulating
it's not the
that.
government money. It doesn't belong. My hard-earned money is not the government money. It's not. So if I decide to contribute, hear what I'm saying. If I decide to contribute, so we have $10. I earn $10. Okay, that's my, okay? And I want to use $5 to put towards a program. How does that belong to the government? How does the government get to tell me what to do with my $5?
You're saying tax credits and incentives. That is legally, that is technically the government who controls that. That's one of the
No, the
five
government
functions.
doesn't control that.
That's one of the 5 functions
okay,
of
the
Congress
article
is
saying that, no,
the
if
power of the
article is
purse,
saying- no,
taxation.
but look at my plan. Go on my website, look at my plan. It didn't say anything about working with the government. Okay, it says working with private companies.
Thank you, Mr. Bernard.
Thank you.
Ms. McConnell, as someone who works in education, what is your stance on the growing number of charter schools and their effect on traditional public school education?
I am a principal of a charter school in New Orleans. In fact, CNN is doing a special on our charter tomorrow. They're coming to film, so that should be coming out next week. Because in New Orleans, we are 100% charter. I know Baton Rouge has a sizable number of charter schools as well. I think that across the country, there's going to be differences in the best education system, definitely in relation to socioeconomic status of that town. What I've witnessed, and it has taken many years to get to where we are in New Orleans now, but we are 100% charter school system. And we are able to use that autonomy to target students in a way that a big school district just cannot do. In the time of COVID, at my school specifically, we were able to survey our staff, understand which staff members were comfortable working in school, which staff members were not. We were able to tailor their jobs and responsibilities based on their comfort level, taking COVID into account. Then we were able to send teachers to students' homes. We were able to purchase more hotspots and purchase laptops and make sure every student had tech. We were able to have on-site small hubs, and we were able to do all of that because we are a charter school and we can self-govern. And that level of autonomy is what's needed to really give children the resources that they need, especially children who are in low-income neighborhoods who need more than just a book education, right? They need so much more than that. They need mental health services. They need family resources. And schools, charter schools are in a position to do that because we don't have a school district telling us how we have to spend our money. We can keep good teachers because their salaries are based on performance. So if you're a really good teacher, you make more than the same teacher who might have also been working for 4 years but isn't as good of a teacher. So charter schools allow, when properly governed, and there has to be a level of accountability, that is critical, but it does allow schools to get kids what they need and really make some measurable results.
Thank you. Senator Carter, you have been actively involved at every level of state government for the last 30+ years. You've served on committees and have even held the distinction of being the first African American to be elected from the 7th District. You have served on various leadership positions within the state government. But according to U.S. News, Louisiana currently ranks 50th overall. How can you assure the citizens of District 2 that they will not get more of the same if they elect you?
Change does not happen overnight. If you look at the leadership in our country, look at the things that our forefathers in the civil rights movement fought for, how long it fought and took for us to get incremental change, to get our freedoms. Listen, it's easy to suggest that somehow because you've been in the vineyard, somehow there's something wrong with that. I don't run from that adage of being a career public servant. I don't think it's a bad word. I will never accept that as being a bad word. Being a career public servant, and if you want to say a career politician or any of these negative connotations that some people like to attach to it, listen, when you work for the people and you dedicate your life for a cause, there's nothing wrong with that. When you're committed to a cause of working for the people, and we oftentimes do it at a great loss to our family time, to our finances, to our personal lives. It's a vocation. It's a dedication. So to suggest that because some of us have served for a long time, there's something wrong, man, I think that's just a cute adage that some people like to use for their own advantage. The reality is change takes a long time, and we have to encourage more people to be a part of the process because there's strength in numbers. We are the strict minority in the Senate. There's a strict minority, but we still fight to pass bills. We still fight to advocate issues. I have fought for a minimum wage, and we file bills every year, but we haven't passed it. Not because the will of mine or of my party hasn't been to pass it. There are obstacles that are out there that prevent us from doing that of which we would love to do, like having equal pay for women, like having minimum wage for people, like having reasonable gun control. But the reality is there are forces that work against that. Does it mean we should roll over and stop? No, I won't. I never have, and I won't quit. And I have been a fighter for the people of Louisiana in every seat that I've held. And I will continue to be a fighter for the people of Louisiana as a member of Congress.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers, you have come out in support of the Green New Deal. You have also stated recently on your social media pages, namely Instagram, that no politician should take money from energy companies. But for the last 3 years, most recently last year, you've had Exxon as a sponsor of your Black Ball banquet. How do you reconcile your comments on politicians taking fossil fuel money versus your own personal actions of taking fossil fuel money?
Taking money for a community event that sponsors and honors 28 black people in this community is not the same as funding a political career. I think when we talk about the money that Exxon, $2,500 check that Exxon cut to honor people in this community, that's not supporting Gary Chambers and putting me in Congress. That's honoring people in this community. And it's the least that they could do as a partner in this community. I think that these corporations should spend more money investing in community projects in this community, less money on politicians and buying their special interests. So there's a complete difference in that. When you talk about my campaign that I ran in 2019, there were no fossil fuel industries that gave to my campaign. When you talk about my campaign now, there are no fossil fuel industries that are supporting me at this point. The people are. And for me to take money from the rich to give to the poor, I do that on twice on Sunday and every day of the week.
So at no time in the future as well, you will never take fossil fuel money at all?
Not in
even if
anything,
elected?
not in anything involving me politically.
That's what I mean,
Correct.
politically, yes. Senator Carter Peterson, as someone who's held leadership positions within the Democratic Party and who's also had endorsements and donations from major formal national leaders like Tom Paris, how can you assure the constituents of District 2 that you are not another establishment candidate?
Yeah, based on the number of people that are supporting my campaign as I move around this district, I think that it's quite evident, at least to me, that I am a part of a movement, a people-powered movement. I've heard that before somewhere. That the people of this district are looking for someone who's a fighter, and they look at that those positions that I've held in the Democratic Party and the people that are supporting me, and I think they see it as affirmation in some way. And so I'm proud to have those endorsements. I don't at all think that that's a negative. Those people know my heart, they know my spirit, and they know my work ethic and my values. I ran for my first Democratic Party position when I was 18 years old. I was so anxious to vote. I ran as a Jesse Jackson delegate to the Democratic National Convention in 1988. It was the Atlanta Convention. I was the youngest delegate there. I then ran to be a part of Young Democrats. I ran for the State Central Committee, for the Parish Committee. I worked my way up in Democratic Party politics. I was the Democratic National Committee woman. I have mentors like Donna Brazil and the Colored Girls, Leah Dowtry and Yolanda Caraway. Lottie Shackelford, black women all across this country. It's not just Tom Perez, that's what I gotta tell you. It's not just Tom Perez that's supporting me. And Leader Stacey Abrams is supporting me because we've been sisters in the work. So if you see the fact that Stacey Abrams gave me $2,800 and she's from Georgia, I hope you don't hold that against me. If you see that people are helping me get my message out to the people in Louisiana because we want to do what happened in Georgia right here in Louisiana, and it doesn't happen overnight. It comes with organizing and leading people. And women have always been the backbone of major change in this country. And I hope to see it again. And I hope that black women lead that way. And I want to be a part of that. I want to make her story. And I ask the people who are watching tonight and those that are present to give me a chance to serve you and to make history as the first black woman to serve in the Congress from Louisiana.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Bernard, you recently stated in The Advocate that you do not see black Americans or white Americans. You only see Americans. How can you say that while vying for a seat to represent a district known as the majority minority district that was solely created because of the lack of minority representation in Congress?
You know, that's, I would say, one of the best questions of the night, beside my brain freeze, okay? I want to address something prior to that. The after-school education program. It is to empower parents to make decisions. Take the power away from the government. That's the first thing. I want parents and children old enough to make decisions for themselves so they can start learning to be business-like. Okay, so that's what my after-school education program is supposed to be. Now, as an immigrant to this country, and I said this earlier, in the 14th Amendment, it says if you're born or naturalized, you're an American. Now, when you look at us, there's one image in us, and it's God's image. He said this. We're made in his image. We're made of one blood. Biology, scientifically, it says we're 99.98% similar genetically. We're only 0.012% different. Yet we play to those differences. So I have more melanin content than white people. That's the only difference. So we need to go back to what binds family, faith, education, hard work. It worked for the whites, it works for the native, and it works for the black man. It worked for the former slaves. We need to find the ties that bind in this country. Frederick Douglass, he learned to educate himself, and when he learned that slavery was unfit for humanity. Booker T. Washington, would you stop talking while I'm speaking, please? Booker T. Washington, when he formed Tuskegee University, he was tapping into something that we need to be tapping into. The solutions are always there. But we've moved away. We're trying to recreate things that solutions have been provided for. We have Southern University. PBS Pinchback gave, because he knew education was the way out for us. And we're not fighting for those things. We're keeping blacks trapped in areas by their zip codes, instead of giving parents the opportunity to empower them to make decisions for their own children's life. Even the parent who can barely read will do way better than me as a representative for their child. Because most parents love their children. The government, the bureaucrats see opportunities. So that's what I'm here for. I am fighting for American values because that's what they told me as an immigrant. And I'm here, I'm about to hold that up just like the promissory note, because that's what it says. That's the value. That's why I'm fighting for that in this country. This country has a lot of greatness, and it's not about color. It was about the spirit behind the people, and we need to capture that. That's what, like I said, we have resources in 2nd Congressional District. We have the resources.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. McConnell. Summer 2020 saw a lot of social unrest due to the unarmed killing of George Floyd. The relationship between the African American community and law enforcement has been tense for years, with more cases of excessive police force reported each year, even recently here in Baton Rouge. Representing a district that is 61% black, how can you work to assure the majority of your potential constituents that you are both hearing their concerns and legislating on their behalf to prevent this trend from growing?
So I think the first step is to make sure that as a few others have suggested, that I'm always available in the district, and if I am in Washington, D.C., that I'm also spending just as much time within the community and in the community. From a policy standpoint, we spend an incredible amount of time, money, and resources on our justice system, our prison system, our jail system. And so it is time that we shift funding away from not away from law enforcement in its entirety, but we do spend too much money on enforcement and providing them with military equipment and not training them properly in de-escalation techniques. So what I would do is, at a federal level, put measures in place that mandate training for law enforcement in de-escalation procedures, and that shift federal funding away from away from the prison system and into infrastructure.
Thank you. Senator Carter. In a district where 68% of its residents reside in New Orleans and surrounding areas, how can you assure the parts of the district in East Baton Rouge and West Baton Rouge Parish that you are also advocating on their behalf when we have yet to see you in this area outside of this evening?
Well, that's absolutely incorrect. I was here just this Sunday. I visited churches here. I worshiped with Reverend Gerard Robinson. Had a wonderful day with him. I was with Reverend Renee Brown. Had a wonderful day with him. So to suggest that we haven't been here, I am supported by Senator Cleo Fields. I'm supported by the Mayor of Addis, Mayor Toops. I'm supported by Jeremy Lacombe. I'm supported by Chad Brown. I'm supported by Senator Ed Price and Ken Brass. And we have been through all 10 parishes. So not sure where you got that statistic from, sir. It's not accurate. We have gone door to door. We've worked in communities. We continue to acknowledge that every single parish within the 2nd Congressional District is important, regardless of the number of votes that are there, regardless of the population of the particular parish. And I will continue to show and to demonstrate both in word and in deed that every single parish is important. My leadership does not end and begin in Orleans Parish. That has been the bulk of my career. However, we've demonstrated that every part of the state is important, and that has been rewarded by the level of support that we've gotten from clergy, the level of support that we've gotten from other elected officials from this very area, and the level of support that we're enjoying from the door-to-door activity and the people that we have spoken and met with.
Thank you. This concludes our 4th segment. Now it's time for our 5th and final segment, which is an open forum for each candidate to ask another candidate a question. So we've already started with all of our candidates, and now it's time for us to start with Senator Peterson. You are first in this particular category.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll ask Gary Chambers a question. I know you have a beautiful daughter who's 11 years old, Zoe. You talk about her often. And I suspect that based on what I heard this evening with your mother, who you saw in the pulpit leading in such a strong way as a woman, that you want the same kinds of role models for Zoe. And so how excited would you be to see the first African-American woman elected to Congress? Softball.
Well, you know, Zoe is definitely the best thing I ever did, and she is super pro girl. She is super pro girl. But I think Zoe in this election would like to see her father elected. However, she is elated about our new vice president, our mayor president, and I believe that one day Louisiana should elect a woman as their congresswoman, black woman as their congress member. I just hope it's not on March the 20th.
Okay, fair. Thank you.
Mr. Bernard, your chance to ask any candidate on the panel a question.
I really don't have any questions for the candidate. You know, to be honest, I'd like to just deal with issues. You know, for me, the district is struggling, man. We need to hear from the people. That's what I'm here for. You know, candidate, we can butter it up. We can say whatever we want to say, but at the end of the day, I'm here to represent the people, and that's who I would like to hear from, to be honest. You know, the candidates, they have their platforms, they've had their histories. I want to hear from the people. That's who I want to talk to. That's why I'm here.
Thank you. Ms. McConnell?
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Chambers, this just came up in my head when you were answering a question earlier. You had said that you wanted to be on the Transportation Committee if you were elected. So I'm wondering, the Green New Deal, which you've said a few times that you've supported, and I'm thinking that maybe you started supporting that since you became a candidate in this race. But the Green New Deal calls for a complete elimination of all greenhouse gas emissions. 93% of our transportation in America uses fossil fuels, and so the Green New Deal calls for a 10-year plan where we completely eliminate fossil fuel emissions from vehicles, from planes. So that would require everybody to drive an electric vehicle. It would require Amtrak to shut down, and it would require us to switch from airlines to maybe a high-speed railway. Is that what it also proposes that we end methane emissions by greatly reducing manufacturing, and it even goes as far as suggesting that we reduce the amount of beef that we consume. Are those the measures that you are supporting, and do you think the constituency agrees with you?
So, number one, I didn't start supporting the Green New Deal when I got into this election. I supported Senator Bernie Sanders in 2016 and in 2020, and believe that good policies are good policies. Number two, Louisiana ranks 50 in the nation, and we're led by oil and gas. So anybody telling me that oil and gas is the answer for Louisiana really doesn't understand what 50 out of 50 states means. Number three, when you talk about jobs and opportunities for black folks in Cancer Alley, there are people from Texas driving to work at those plants, not black folks that live in Edgard and St. John and St. James the Baptist Parish. There are people being driven into this community to get those jobs that are polluting their community. And I guarantee you, if you ask the people, the black folks who live in those communities, that they don't want the waste that comes from these chemical plants coming all into their water and into their air. But because most of the people who live around there are black, people don't care. Another aspect of, when we talk about this, if America could take a man to the moon, we can get rid of cars with gas. If America could put a rover on Mars, we can figure out how to advance electric technology. The problem in this country is some of us can't dream anymore. Some of us don't see big ideas anymore. And some of the leading voices of the past have called on America to great ideas and great futures. I believe that people should be able to live in a society where they get clean water, clean air, and that the jobs they work on don't kill them. And so if you don't support that, that's absolutely fine. But I guarantee you, if you talk to the black folks who live in St. John, St. James, St. Charles parishes, I guarantee you, if you talk to the people who live near Exxon, when the fire happened in January of last year from an explosion, and nobody knew what was going into the atmosphere around black folks. Now, you might teach black children at a charter school. I'm black and I live in these communities, and I understand what it is we want to see happen for our people.
Senator Carter. Yes, your chance to ask any candidate on the panel.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask my brother Gary a question. Gary, if you were rolled into a hospital with a gaping hole in your chest from a gunshot wound, who would you want to operate on you? The physician or the orderly?
A physician.
Would you want a physician or an orderly?
If I was walking into a hospital room,
Rolled on the gurney.
I said a physician.
You're a physician?
Yeah.
You don't want a physician?
Yes.
Okay, I thought you were asking. So a physician who's been trained,
No doubt.
who has the experience,
No doubt.
who's done it before,
Mm-hmm.
like a career politician.
It's my turn.
Mr. Chambers.
I like your boots, Senator. Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question. I'm 35, born in 1985. What year did you get elected?
I was first elected in 1992.
How old were you?
I was 27.
27 years old. I think that's an honorable thing.
Thank you.
I don't see an issue with people serving in public office. I've given you a great deal of respect, as well as Senator Carter Peterson. But the question becomes, when do you give somebody else an opportunity to lead? Because for 30 years, you've had an opportunity to lead, and we still rank number 50. So when does my generation get a chance to try to make things better if you continue to stay in the position?
When the people give you that opportunity.
And they will.
Because when the people, see, the seats belong to the people, and people select. It's not about a gift, Gary. It's about earning it. And I've earned the elections that I've won. No one's given them to me. I've gone to the people and I presented my platform. I presented my case. I've explained why I'm the best person to do the job, and they've rewarded me by electing me.
You're
and
not
so,
answering my
but
question.
I have answered your question.
No, I said, when
Your
do you
chance
give
will be given when the people give it to you.
But if you continue to stay in the pipeline, young people will never get the opportunity you were given at 27 because you continue to run.
No, sir. I ran against someone, and I beat them.
And so
And that's what I suggest that you do. Instead of asking for social promotion, present yourself, and then the people will decide.
I'm in an election running against you.
And I've invited you to do that, my brother. And
Thank
I
you.
respect your right to do so.
We thank you all for joining us this evening. At this time, we will have our closing arguments, and we will start again with Mr. Bernard. And let's please keep in mind time.
Oh, come on, man. Hey, I'm trying to make up. Hey, you know, sometimes you start out the blocks a little slow, but it happens.
Mr. Bernard.
Yes, sir. Look, Louisiana, this is my country. This is my home. And I intend to do that. I intend to make sure Washington is not, I'm not lured by Washington politics. Like I said, I've been to the Olympics. I know the lure of power. I just want to serve the people. I want to create an environment so when my daughters, when we travel to places like Alaska or to other places in this state, country, that is beautiful, they can come home and feel proud about where they live. That's what I'm going to Washington, D.C. to fight for. That's what I want to do. I want to bring hope. We got to focus on in the black community. You ask a question, it's 60-something, almost 70% black. The church is the pillar of the black community. It shouldn't be put in a situation where they have to choose between life, liberty of the unborn. That shouldn't be happening. You know, so I want to see a community, the community I read about even when the slaves were facing oppression, how the family came together. When they were marching during the civil rights. That's what I learned coming to this country. I want to see that. Yes, there were oppression, but the family was a unit. It wasn't destroyed by a government bureaucrat looking to stay in office forever and ever and ever and ever. That's what I want to see. Who wants solutions to the family? Because that's the backbone and the strength of America. That's what I saw in 1980s when I'm watching American movies. When I listened to the Motown singers, you could hear that. They were coming out of a period that they had to ride at the back of the bus. But look at what we were able to do. We can't be trapped in the past, and we can't continue to support destruction of the family.
Thank you. Ms. McConnell.
So I, as it's been pointed out, I'm not black. I will never understand what it is like to be black in this country. All I can do is seek to understand, and I do try to do that every day to the best of my ability. But I don't think that I need to be black to represent the needs of Congressional District 2. I did grow up with a refinery in my backyard, and for Hurricane Katrina, I had oil all within my house. So I do understand pollution, air pollution, to a certainty. And I am a single mother. I am a single parent on a single income, and I pay all of my bills by myself. And so I do raise a child in a fatherless household. There are needs that are similar to many of the needs of our constituents that I do understand. What I can promise you is that I am not in this race, and I'm not seeking this position for any power and not for money, and not to rise up within a party. And I'm not driven by anybody else's motives except for yours. I believe that government exists to protect the freedom of people. And I think that we're getting away from that protection. Government should protect your freedom and step in when that freedom is being compromised, and to make sure that nobody's rights are violated through force or fraud. That's what we're here to do. And that is what I promise that I will do every single day. People need to have the ability to live freely, to make money for themselves, to get licensure, and all the restrictions that stop people and keep people down out of here, so we can live free. Everybody can make money. Everybody can purchase a home or rent a home or live affordably. But with so much put on people's back, it's just impossible to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Carter.
Thank you all for the opportunity. Prophetic Voices, for taking your time. You know, we're all running for office. So for us being here, it's required. But for you, you're volunteering to do so. You're here on your own time and your own volition. So I want to thank all of you for caring enough, for being here to vet us, to ask the tough questions, to take time away from your families to be with us today. My name is Troy Carter. I'm number 4 on the ballot, and I'm running for Congress. I'm very proud of my body of work, my series of accomplishments over the years in fighting for and representing the people of Louisiana. Very proud to have garnered the support of elected officials in this very area, Senator Cleo Fields, Representative Ken Brass, Representative Jeremy Colon, Representative Chad Brown, Mayor David Toops, the support of the AFL-CIO, support of Alliance for Good Government, support of independent women organizations, support of a joint endorsement of the Louisiana Democratic Party. And also, and perhaps most important, is the support of the very person that's vacating this seat, Congressman Cedric Richmond, who is now a senior advisor to the President of the United States. And I'm proud of that relationship, because relationships matter. The ability to work with people, the ability to have a relationship with the White House creates an opportunity to provide resources for the people. I'm proud of what I've done, and I'm proud that people have endorsed me based on my ability to get things done. I've got 2 sons. One is a junior in college and one is a freshman in college. My wife is a general in the United States Army. Service means something to us. We have fought. My wife has been 3 tours of duty, combat duty, and she's fought for the freedoms of our people. And we wake up every day giving back. That's what my family does. That's what I'll continue to do as your member of Congress. I ask for your prayers and your support. Troy Carter, number 4 for Congress. God bless.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers.
Well, thank you to Prophetic Voices, all of the clergy involved. Thank you, Tony, for asking us tough questions tonight, and for Prophetic Voices making sure that we didn't have too many people here tonight so we could actually have a real conversation. It is greatly appreciated. But to you, the voters, you know me. I have been an advocate in this community for years now. Whether it was when they closed 2 emergency rooms in our community, myself and other advocates in this community organized to help us fight and get an emergency room. Nobody gave that to us. We fought for it. When they tried to move the zoo out of North Baton Rouge and give us a $45 million replacement park, myself and other community advocates organized in this community and got stuff done, and the zoo is staying there with a $300 million investment coming. When they killed Jordan Frazier, Calvin Toney, Travis Stevenson, Alton Sterling, it was myself and other advocates that stood up in the streets of Baton Rouge fighting for you and equity and justice. But the quiet work of justice is the work that nobody knows about. The times I've sat down at tables with our elected leaders behind closed doors to fight to bring police reform in this community. Without a title, without 30 years of service, I have proven to you people that I'm for you. I'm not going to list out a bunch of politicians that support us because somebody's got to be holding the politicians accountable. That's why they don't endorse me. I'm going to fight for the people every single day. And it's time that the 2nd Congressional District had a representative that cared about the whole district. You can be the congressman from New Orleans and ignore the river parishes and Baton Rouge. But one of the signs of strength here in Baton Rouge for me is I'm the only candidate in the race from this city because you, the people, and even our elected rep, my work and know the work that we can do for you in D.C. You cannot be the congressman from Baton Rouge and ignore New Orleans. It is a major portion of this district, but it is not the only portion of this district. And it's high time that we had a representative that represented all of the people. I'm Gary Chambers, and I live by the motto, do good and seek justice, because my faith is not just a word, it's a way of life. I hope that you'll give me your vote through early voting and on Election Day.
Thank you. Senator Carter Peterson.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here with Prophetic Voices, and to Pastor Smith, thank you for having. Appreciate you opening the doors to Shiloh and keeping us safe, COVID safe. 500,000 people have died across this country. Louisiana is being tested like it's been tested before. We are resilient people, and I think that as the voters go to the polls, starting on March the 6th is the first opportunity, early voting. I really think that you should learn more about the candidates. There's a few of us here, and there's nothing wrong with some healthy debate, but learn about the candidates, learn about their platforms. And I would say that I ask you to vote for Karen Carter Peterson, number 5 on the ballot, because I have a proven track record of getting things done. I did run for the legislature 21 years ago. I'm proud of that service because I was able to get things done. For example, I was the first woman to serve as chair of the House Insurance Committee. I served as the chair of the Hurricane Recovery Committee when it was time to get people back into their homes and fight on that TV, buses and gas, we need help now. And I helped people get back into their homes, and I held government accountable. I then served as the Speaker Pro Tem, the number 2 person in the House of Representatives, and I led there. I moved over to the Senate, and I served as the Senate Chair of the Senate and Governmental Affairs Committee, where we do deal with reapportionment and campaign finance and ethics. Integrity is important in governments, balancing the needs of the people, but also acknowledging what we talked about earlier, lobbyists and advocates, and holding them accountable. I now serve as the chair of the Local and Municipal Committee. I say these things. I also served as the first woman to chair the Louisiana Democratic Party. All 10 of those parishes that are in the 2nd Congressional District, I've worked in them. I've been present. I'm proud to have the endorsement right here in East Baton Rouge of Councilmember Erica Green, Councilmember Carolyn Coleman, Representative Larry Selders, Representative Denise Marcel, and other community leaders. I'm proud of that. I don't see that as being a bad thing. I think endorsements are good, and those relationships matter when it's time to pick up the phone like last night. Nobody talked about it like last night when everything was popping off on social media about what happened to that 13-year-old right here in this community. I called them first to say, what's going on? What's happening? I sent a note to Mayor Broome and said, what's happening, right? And I think it's important to have these relationships, but just because you have an endorsement, as Gary said, it doesn't mean that that is why you should vote for someone. Look at their record. Look at what they've done. I've stood up for women when it was hard, when it was in the face of even someone in my own party. Bringing power back to people, empowering people. People say, all along this trail, how can we be like Georgia? This is not like Cinderella. This ain't Kansas. This ain't Dorothy. We got to do the work of organizing and transforming lives. I've been doing it, and I humbly ask that you give me your consideration when you go to the polls, hopefully early, on March the 6th through the 13th, and vote early. Please consider Karen Carter Peterson. You can find out more information, www.karencarterpeterson.com. And thank you again to Prophetic Voices.
Thank you all for giving us your time this evening, and we greatly appreciate you coming through and allowing the people of the 2nd District to be able to hear a little bit more from you all so that they can make an informed decision. As it's been stated, early voting does begin on March 6th through March 13th with a March 7th exception, with Election Day being March 20th. We ask that those who are watching us feel free to not only look at the candidates on this panel, go to their websites, but also to all of the candidates who are participating in this election to find out more about each candidate and how they can best serve you. We ask that you make an informed decision as you exercise that hard fought for right to vote on March 6th through the 13th or on March 20th if you choose. We thank you all for joining us on behalf of Prophetic Voices along with Mad Game Entertainment. We thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to hearing more from you all. And we wish you all great luck and much success in your future endeavors and also with this election. I've been your moderator this evening, Tony King. We thank you. Good night.